I'm Pranit. I'm going to take you the mock. Okay. So let's start this. So first of all, introduce yourself.
Yeah. Hello, my name is Akshay Kumar Damasagar. I'm from Hyderabad. So I have 4 years of experience at Amazon as a quality specialist, where I was working with preparing reports for the fulfillment centers, which are spread across regions in North America, China, and Japan. Our work, day-to-day work, would be like see the jobs and determine how accurate the ML is and see if there are any changes. And upon that, for a week, we have to make the reports in Excel, get the data from SQL, all those things. So this is how my day-to-day work would be. And that's my 4 years of experience at Amazon. And that was my first company. I've been graduated in the year 2017 from St. Martin Engineering College in the stream of information technology. And yeah, this is pretty well about it.
Your year is 2017.
Yeah.
So we'll be having first Python theory and next coding now. So let's start the theory one. In Python, what do you mean by mutable data type and immutable data type?
Mutable and immutable. Mutable data means once we have declared any data, any variable with according to a particular data type, we can be changed. I mean, like once we have processed it, like we have used in any code or function, we can again change the data type. I mean, like change that particular data in the sense in the means of like increase its memory or decrease it or change the characters all within that data type for a variable. Coming to immutable, once we have declared it, it is not possible to change the data type. For example, if we declared any variable in the list data type, then we can increase the size of the list and also decrease. Coming to immutable, for example, is like tuple. Once we have declared it, we cannot change. We cannot increase its data type or decrease its data type. It's fixed. So this is about immutable and mutable.
Okay, what comes under mutable?
Mutable data types are like lists, dictionaries, and immutable data type, tuple, and string.
You missed one. Immutable list dictionary you said. There will be another one also.
List, dictionary, int, set, yeah, set.
Okay.
Yeah.
So here the technique is like if we add memory and if we delete memory and if we are able to update, then they are called as mutable.
Yes.
Okay, so what I will do is I will delete the value from tuple. So whether it can be also called as mutable, tuple can also be called as mutable.
Yeah, if we are completely deleting it, then the variable wouldn't be there. So we have to do it from the scratch. If we delete it, then it is we are completely removing its memory. Its value. So to be specific about immutability is like we cannot, if it has to be very existing, and also we cannot increase its in size. When we'll be using it in the programs like in the functions, but we cannot increase its size. But it will be still there. But if we are completely removing it, then it's got no value.
And also there are no direct functions for removing it. See here, when I do this, I'll be using problem solving like
yes.
for loop is all
yes,
I will be using,
yeah.
and however I will be converting it.
Yeah.
But it is not the ultimate one. No.
Yeah.
For the other mutable data type, there are direct functions
yes.
to do like dot remove, dot add. There. Okay. And what is local variable and global variable?
Local variable and global variable. First, talking about local variable. Local variable is like any variable which is defined in a function, then its scope is within that function. We cannot be used outside the function. That's called local variable. Coming to global variable, we'll be defining the variable outside the function, like globally, so that which can be utilized within the function and outside the function also. So there's the main difference between local variable and global variable.
And to convert the local to global, what keyword we use?
We use variable name, global, followed by the variable name, and we define and the value, whatever value we are saying.
And what is the main purpose of using user-defined functions.
User-defined functions. Like user-defined functions which helps us to
So we'll be having first Python theory and next coding now. So let's start the theory one. In Python, what do you mean by mutable data type and immutable data type?
Mutable and immutable. Mutable data means once we have declared any data, any variable with according to a particular data type, we can be changed. I mean, like once we have processed it, like we have used in any code or function, we can again change the data type. I mean, like change that particular data in the sense in the means of like increase its memory or decrease it, or change the characters all within that data type for a variable. Coming to immutable, once we have declared it, it is not possible to change the data type. For example, if we declared any variable in the list data type, then we can increase the size of the list and also decrease. Coming to immutable, for example, is like tuple. Once we have declared it, we cannot change. We cannot increase its data type or decrease its data type. It's fixed. So this is about immutable and mutable.
Okay, what comes under mutable?
Mutable data types are like lists, dictionaries, and immutable data type, tuple, and string.
You missed one. Immutable, list, dictionary you said. There will be another one also.
List, dictionary, int, set, yeah, set,
Okay.
yeah, set data type. Yes.
So here the technique is like if we add memory and if we delete memory and if we are able to update, then they are called as mutable.
Yes.
Okay, so what I will do is I will delete the value from tuple. So whether it can be also called as mutable, tuple can also be called as mutable.
Yeah, if we are completely deleting it, then the variable wouldn't be there. So we have to do it from the scratch. If we delete it, then it is we are completely removing its memory,
Its value.
So to be specific about immutability is like we cannot, if it has to be very existing, and also we cannot increase its in size. We'll be using it in the programs like in the functions, but we cannot increase its size. But it will be still there. But if we are completely removing it, then it's got no value.
And also there are no direct functions for removing it. See here, when I do this, I'll be using problem solving like
Yes.
for loop is all
Yes,
I
for
will be
loops,
using,
yeah.
and however I will be converting it.
Yeah.
But it is not the ultimate one. No.
Yeah.
For the other mutable data types, there are direct functions
Yes.
to do like dot remove, dot add. There. Okay. And what is local variable and global variable?
Local variable and global variable. First, talking about local variable. Local variable is like any variable which is defined in a function, then its scope is within that function. We cannot be used outside the function. That's called local variable. Coming to global variable, we'll be defining the variable outside the function, like globally, so that which can be utilized within the function and outside the function also. So there's the main difference between local variable and global variable.
And to convert the local to global, what keyword we use?
We use variable name global followed by the variable name, and we define and the value, whatever value we are saying.
And what is the main purpose of using user-defined functions?
User-defined functions, like user-defined functions, which helps us to like if we want to, it reduces the size of the code. We can use the function anywhere, like suppose we are taking we want the program to take any phone number. phone number which has to be in India, particularly talking about India, it has to be of 10 digits. So if we have written any program, if the if we have if we have written any function for take number, which if it has to be like if it is less than 10 digits, then it has to say the output is wrong. So we can the same function can be utilized in our function, like if we are like taking that phone number and doing some else task. So actually the main concept is like it reduces the code size, and then the same function can be utilized in many other programs. I couldn't get the example correctly, but it reduces the length of the code and can be utilized in many times. It's a defined function.
Reusable.
Yeah, reusable. Yeah, but
okay. Syntax for it.
Just the name of the function, followed by whatever the arguments which we want to pass it. Call the name of the function and the arguments whatever we have defined in the first place.
Name of the function
with arguments.
No. And still, suppose you think you are writing a function, tell that.
Yeah. For suppose if I'm writing for a define if we want to check if a number is even or not. Okay, and for it, the function would be like def num even num. That's the name of the function, followed by the parameter which we'll be giving is n. The n has to be taking the input from the user, and then followed by the colon, and then inside the function we'll get into the function inside the function, and we will ask the we'll name a variable number, and then ask the input from the user, enter any number, and we'll convert that into the int. And then if we check the number, since we have saved it in the number percentile 2, if it is 0, then we'll get we will return even if that's the function. And if we want to call that function, we'll give the name of the function even num, and then the parameter n or anything arguments. Like when we are calling it is the parameters. When we are defining its parameter and we are calling it though that becomes the argument.
Okay, when function call, what value will pass? You said you will be passing in net when the function is defined.
Yeah.
You defined there in.
Yes.
And while the time of function call?
Function call. The same. If I have kept n, then that n has to be divided. Since I'm taking input from the user, so so just num any variable we can give, so that variable has to be again assigned to take the input from the user. Whatever the name we are giving in the arguments, the same variable should be assigned for taking the input from the user. If I'm supposed taking even num is the name of the function, and n is the argument which I'm passing in the function, the same n has to be the int enter any number. Then that n will be having the value for, suppose user has given 5, that n will be having the value of 5, which will be percentile by like module by 2. If we get 0, then it's an even. If not, it's an odd. So any variable name, but any character, the same character has to be placed in should be used in the place of the variable.
Not variable. You should pass that 5 only when function call. If you pass again n, then what it will say? Then it will say n is not defined. Where is the value you are sending?
Yeah.
At function call, you need to pass 5.
Yeah.
If you are checking for 5, you define their n. When function is defined, you pass the n as a parameter.
Yeah.
And now it expects a value node. So while function call, you need to pass value.
Yeah.
Or else if you pass a variable, then what it will say? What error you can expect?
Not defined.
N is not defined.
Yeah, not defined.
So if you pass 5, it will receive there. Like that it happens.
Yeah. So directly n and n has to be modulo 2. Direct number we have to give to the function while calling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So 5. And you are using return statement here.
Yes.
So what I will say is, instead of using this return, you can directly print there now. But generally, the programmers use written.
Yeah. Like there are like many instances, like 90% people use written instead of print, because the reason is like functions. There will be many cases scenarios where function is dependent. The output of one function is dependent on it will be considered as the input for the other function. So if we are directly printing, then that can't be accessed. So instead, if we are returning, then that becomes the input for the other function. The output of the one function becomes the input of the other function. So that's why return plays that's why most of the programmers, like 90% of the developers, use the return statement instead of printing. Like very rarely.
That return value can be again reused.
Reused in other functions.
Okay. What do you mean by lambda function?
Lambda functions it has also got this another name, anonymous functions, where we can just directly within a single, like for example, if we spoke about like even number function, it takes a lot of lines to write that function. But if coming to lambda functions or anonymous functions, we can just write the function code within a single line, and then we can get the output. To reduce the lines of the code, to have any small checks, we use these anonymous functions.
Okay. In simple, we can say that a function without function name.
Yeah, function.
Syntax.
Now, considering example like same even or odd number, if we are taking the example, then lambda x, that any value we can define, x or a or anything. So we'll take x, so lambda x and colon x percentile 2 is equal to 0, then return then comma, and then the output what we are expecting, even. If not, then odd, in a single line.
Okay. And what are these comprehensions in Python?
Comprehensions are list comprehensions and dictionary comprehensions. So even so if the list comprehensions, if you want to generate any list, it can be done within a single line. They even same as the lambda functions, they reduce the lines of the code. It can be written in a single line, these comprehensions.
Okay. Still a dictionary. What do you mean by file handling?
File handling, there are like main three functions in file handling: reading, writing, and creating a new file. So if we want to create a new file, we can create a new file if we just give the name of the file. If the file exists, then it writes to that file. It writes to the file. If not, then it will create a new file in the name of whatever the name we give. Or else, if you want to read any file, the data, we can read the data, and then we can even write to the file, like creating a new files, and then where we want to place the particular file. If we give the path, then there the file will be created and the file will be accessed from that path.
Okay. And what is the difference between write mode and append mode here in file handling?
Yeah, write mode is like, if there is any existing data in a file, then write mode just deletes all the existing data and writes whatever input we are giving from the scratch. From the starting, it will be writing. Whereas append mode is like, it just adds the data to the existing data.
Okay. And what do you mean by exceptional handling?
Exception handling is like we are not sure whether an error might occur. If an error might occur, so to mitigate that issue, so that rather than the system terminating the whole program, we'll just handle that particular part where we are expecting it to be. It can be error. So we mitigate that issue to that particular part of the program. If there is an error, we give, okay, if there is an error, then give me this part of the solution and then continue with the program. So rather than terminating the program, if there is any error, we handle it so that the program doesn't collapse. Like it goes on running smoothly for the other functions if there are any.
For program purpose, we'll use exception handling.
Yeah, to
Or
get-
for our observation, we use exception handling.
yeah, for our observation, and also like programs, like if there are any lengthy programs, then it gives that kind of output and goes on with the other part. It executes the other parts of the program too.
Okay. And what type of errors we can handle?
Like division by zero error, and division by zero error, and undefined error. Undefined error.
Undefined error. What is undefined error?
Like if any variable is not declared, then it says undefined error.
Variable non-defined means value error like it.
Yeah, value error. Yeah, value.
Do you have idea about syntax error? Syntax error, no?
Yeah, syntax error I have heard. Like I don't like exception handling. Like I've not that much that much.
Okay. And when we use this exception handling, we'll be taking help of a library, no? What is it?
System library. We'll be importing a system. Sys library.
Sys. And let's move to OOPS. What do you mean by inheritance?
Inheritance. It's like getting the properties of one class, the child class getting the properties of the parent class, like connecting it with our in general, how we get the property ancestors property to their fathers, their forefathers. So in the same way, the same concept has been applied in the OOPS. That's called inheritance, where the father gets the properties of his father, and then the child gets the properties of his father and also his forefathers. So that's the concept of inheritance.
Okay. So how many types are there? Tell me two types.
A single inheritance and multiple inheritance. And single inheritance is like the father and the child, only two. The child can access the methods of the parent class, but the parent can't access his class, the child's class. Coming to multiple inheritance, here the child can access his father and his great grand. The parent class and his parent class. Whereas the parent class can access only above parent class. So multiple inheritance and single inheritance.
Okay. And once explain me these topics, classes and objects, all those.
Classes is like it has the backbone of it has just a template. If you want to build a house, like if how we have the drawings, so class is like a template where we will be defining what we require, its properties, all those things. We'll be defining it in the class, whereas the object is the instance of the class. With the help of the object, we'll be utilizing the members attributes of the class. So this is the classes and the objects.
Okay. And why do we use self keyword whenever we use a function in classes?
Yeah. So self, just with the help of self, we can access the member attributes or functions of a particular class from outside the function, from outside the class. If we are not using self, then we cannot access it. The self is like self is just the name of the class itself, but here we make it generic, so we use the word self.
Okay. And you missed one. You said we can access with self, but actually, why? Means what you will say?
Why we use? Because we'll be like we'll be in a program, we'll be having many classes, so every time giving a particular class name to that, instead of using that particular class name, we'll be using the self keyword.
No. So generally what happens is the Python interpreter expects an object copy. It will pass an object copy to that function.
Yes.
So there need to be an variable to receive it. So for that purpose we use any variable.
Yeah.
We can use any, either self or A or B or C, anything we can use it. It wants an variable because it sends the copy of that object to that function. Okay. Once you see, if you define a function inside a class, if you don't define anything and create an object, then it will throw you an error that it expects and
Self.
copy.
Yeah.
Why constructor is said to be a powerful thing in Python?
Constructor. Just with the help of constructor only, we can like constructor is once whenever the object is created, the constructor is also created simultaneously in the background. And why it is important is we can create members of the create like
Constructor, for that sake, tell me with an example. See, I'll ask you. There is a class A. Inside that def addition function.
Yeah.
You're doing addition. 2 plus 3. And if you need to get that value, the result, how you will do, you say?
Class A, we create an object like x is equals to.
No, from scratch, from starting, how you will do, you say?
Okay. First, create an object to access.
First, you'll not create object, no. From starting, you say, I'm saying, from the first line.
Okay. So define the class, and then write this function like def add.
You do it in your left. Here you did is, so you created an object, and with that object, you call the function dot.
Class, yeah.
So with constructor, how you are thinking?
Constructor actually, whenever this object has been created, constructor is also being created simultaneously, and with the help of constructor, we can access the
Once-
access the
no.
variables of the.
No, okay. No, you do with constructor.
If I'm defining any variable inside this class, y1 equal to 10.
No, constructor is also a function. No? Do same as additional. How you define constructor? Take it as a practical one only. How you define a constructor? You say. Def underscore underscore init. So
Yeah.
I wanted to say you that.
Yeah, definitely.
So when a constructor is used, no need of this extra this line. Whenever your object is created, that constructor will be invoked. Okay. Same constructor is a function. See, suppose if you keep here, will it run now? Hmm? Or anything it's
Need to give the arguments.
here when object is created. Object A, comma 2, 3 not working. Why? ఇప్పటిదాకా మనం ఇది రివ్యూ చేసిన అసలు ఒక ఎక్స్ట్రా లైన్ రాసినాం కదా దానికి నార్మల్ వితౌట్ కన్స్ట్రక్టర్ దానికి దీనివల్ల డైరెక్ట్ ఇనిషియలైజ్ అయిపోయింది. వెన్ ఎవర్ ఆబ్జెక్ట్ ఈస్ క్రియేటెడ్ కన్స్ట్రక్టర్ ఈస్ ఇనిషియలైజ్డ్. And what is multiprocessing?
Multiprocessing is like we'll be having many processes in the chip. So a particular processor will be assigning particular task within the program, and then multiple processes will be taking the simultaneously it will be running, and individually it will handle a particular task. That is known as multiprocessing.
Okay. And in that, what do you mean by dot start dot join? Dot start dot join. Don't know. Start method, join method. So when we use start, the created process, child processor will be running, and when we use join, until its execution, the other processor will not start. Understood? So like that.
Once it's completed, second one will be starting if you use join.
If you use join only.
Yeah.
See, suppose if there is a child processor C1, C1 dot start if you keep, it will start. And in the next line C2 dot start if you keep, you will be getting same execution in output. But if you keep C1 dot start and C1 dot join, after this C1 completed its execution, then only we will be seeing C2 start.
Yeah.
Like that. And one more you do that exceptional handling, you keep and you print the line number of the error.
Actually, exception handling is like I haven't like touched that one.
Not gone through it.
Yeah.
Okay. So this one is important. You have a look at it.
Yeah.
Constructor.
Yes.
Have you practiced multiprocessing and multithreading any time you had your written code? So look at it also.
Yeah.
Okay. Threading and processing. That's it. I think already you had done a problem solving.
Yeah.
Again, what you will do this, if you do this topic wise, big topics,
Yeah.
practical, okay? Okay, Akshay.
Yes. Thanks.
Hmm. This one very important, they will be asking you a lot.
Yeah.
This constructor.
Constructors, classes, objects.
You also remember, we should not return it is same.
Yeah. Directly print.
Directly print.
Yeah.
For that I had gone through దానికోసం అని నేను నా దగ్గర ఉన్న ఒక క్లాస్ కోడ్ మొత్తం చూసిన.
ఓకే.
ముందు రిటర్న్ అయ్యేది అది, మరి ఏముందో ఇదంతా చూస్తున్నాను. కన్స్ట్రక్టర్లో రిటర్న్ చేస్తే అనుకున్నాను, రిటర్న్ చేస్తున్నారు. ఓకే మరి.
Yeah.